What is happening? Happy Thursday night to all of you. Thanks for joining me as always, and welcome to the bar. It is open. My question always to start this show off is, what are you drinking? I will let you know that I am having a Black Hat Brew Works Moonlight's Wink. Tough to say. Black Hat Brew Works Moonlight's Wink, which is a Czech dark lager. And there you go. Czech dark lager from Black Hat Brew Works. So really, really good beer. Really good beer. Trying to search for the ABV. It is 5.5%. And when they say Czech dark lager, they mean Czech dark lager. But don't be fooled by the look of it, right? It's like a Guinness. Guinness looks like it's heavy and it's nasty, but it's pretty light. Here is the Czech dark lager. Cheers to all of you on this November 6th. Fantastic beer. And of course, just a few weeks away from Thanksgiving. All right, we have a lot to talk about tonight. I know I usually say that, but I'm being completely honest with you. Almost too much to talk about. And Marilyn is cracking open her Sam Adams Oktoberfest again tonight. Great beer. Still have not cracked open my 12-pack downstairs. Hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. Let's start with story number 5. I have been asking the question, how long can Mike McDaniel survive Miami? I talked about it last week. I talked about it at the beginning of the season. I believe I talked about it like week 4, week 5. When was Miami going to pull the trigger? When was Mike McDaniel going to be gone? Well, the answer is apparently he's not going to be gone, at least not this season. Miami fired their GM, Chris Greer. He's gone. But Mike McDaniel is safe. He is safe until at least the end of the season. Diana Russini of The Athletic wrote, it was explained by a team source that owner Stephen Ross is not simply holding on to McDaniel as a placeholder before an offseason shakeup, but genuinely hopes to see McDaniel keep this group competing as Miami simultaneously begins shaping a refreshed vision for its front office. There is still confidence from ownership in the locker room that McDaniel is the right coach for the Dolphins, despite the team's 2-7 record. Now, I don't know if I believe that, but if that is true, and I'm sure that that's what Diana Russini was being told, because Miami doesn't want Mike McDaniel feeling like he's just, walking the plank here. I don't believe it. Why in the world would Miami still have confidence that Mike McDaniel is the right coach for this program? Why? Give me a reason why you would think that. He cannot beat good teams. He has a terrible record against teams above 500. This team cannot overcome adversity. Every time it has a challenge, it fails. Mike McDaniel is an offensive genius, right? That's what Miami thought. Tua in the offense has mostly regressed from a couple of years ago when Mike McDaniel took over. So you can't beat good teams. You can't overcome adversity. The offense and your quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, is not consistently good enough. And Mike McDaniel has unevenly handled players from start to now. If you go back to the beginning of his tenure, he was a player's coach. He was slapping tookuses, being the nice guy. Now, all of a sudden, when he knows his job is in trouble, he tries to become a tough coach, a tough guy, throwing players under the bus at the podium. So he has not even been the same coach since he's been hired. And this is a half measure from the Dolphins organization and from Stephen Ross. Get rid of both of them. Get rid of the GM. Get rid of the head coach. Anthony Weaver, who is the defensive coordinator, has had head coach interviews in prior off seasons. Put Anthony Weaver in as the interim head coach. See how he runs the program. Get a feel for who he is and what he is. And if you want to keep Anthony Weaver, then you sign him before he gets to go interview at other places. And it just begs the question whether or not Miami actually has a plan. Do the Miami Dolphins have a plan? Tua Tagovailoa's contract is atrocious. I don't think you can get rid of that contract. I don't think you can get rid of Tua. Now, of course, you can release him. You can cut him. But that's an issue. So you're dealing with Tua's contract, and he hasn't played well. The offensive line is shoddy. You dealt Jalen Phillips before the deadline for a third-round pick from Philly, which is the type of move that you do when you're trying to lose and tank and you give up on your season. Their defensive backfield is just terrible. So I don't get it. I don't know how you could look at Mike McDaniel and say, no, we still believe he's the one. Maybe they end up being right. But there is nothing about Mike McDaniel as a head coach that would make me believe that he's got the secret sauce. Nothing. Meanwhile, Vegas is 2-6. One of those 2 wins was week 1 against the Patriots when nobody knows what anybody's doing. And Pete Carroll was a win now hire. He's 74 years old. You did not hire Pete Carroll so you can be successful in 2029. You brought in Pete Carroll because you wanted to win in 2025. That was the desire. You brought Pete Carroll in, you traded for Geno Smith, and it has backfired. Raiders 2-6. Geno Smith is struggling. And I don't know if the Raiders are going to try to just kick the can to 2026 and keep Pete Carroll, or they look at it and say, we need to blow this thing up because this plan didn't work and we can't move forward with a 74-year-old head coach. I mean, say if you're going to be good again in 2027, Carroll's going to be 76 years old. So what do you do now? The Raiders are in a tremendously tough situation because of what they did last offseason. And I guess Tom Brady's inside intel is not helping much. Maybe he needs to call more games for Fox to help out the Raiders because they have not been good at football. Oh, and by the way, your best player, Max Crosby, is 28 years old. If you're not going to be good for another couple of years, you might want to try to trade him to bring in assets so then you can get to the draft and start rebuilding this thing. It just feels like both Miami and Vegas are begging to be stuck in purgatory. I don't understand it. I do not understand it. Charlie jumps in with a $10 super chat. He's not working tonight. He's got Fiddlehead White. Fiddlehead White. I don't think I've had that before. Oh, by the way, Sam Adams. I don't know if any of you have tried Winter White. It's at my bar, the tailgate down here. And last time I was at the bar, I tried it. Winter White is an unbelievably good beer. If you have not tried it yet, I would suggest it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Winter White. All right, we got Amy sitting down to have dinner, having a Jacko. Awesome beer. Had it last week. You know the deal. Vin jumps in. Sun Cruiser, Crystal Light, Raspberry, Lemonade, and water. Oh, very nice. Very nice, Vin. Cheers to you, my friend. Matt Owens comes in. Catching the show live for the first time in forever. Thank you, Matt. Good to see you. Drinking an Angry Orchard Berry Bewitched, which is a mixed berry cider. I'm not a beer guy. All good. I'm not a liquor guy, so all good. Angry Orchard. Kelly used to have Angry Orchard a lot. Thomas Crone jumps in and says, yes, Winter White. Yes, Winter White is a tremendous beer. I suggest it heavily. All right, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the podcast. It helps me. Marilyn asks about Winter White. Is it an ale? Yeah. Must be different from the other one. Yes, it's different from Winter Lager. I don't even know if they make Winter Lager anymore. They might have replaced it with Winter White. All right, let's get to story number 4. Quarterback drama. CJ Stroud for Houston. He's concussed. He's going to be out this weekend against Jacksonville. Houston's in trouble. They're 3-5. The bloom is somewhat off the rose for DeMeco Ryans, the head coach down there with the Texans, who got off to a fantastic start, kind of fading a little bit the past couple of years. And now you look at Houston's schedule, and this is why I think they're in trouble. You've got to play the Jaguars without CJ Stroud this weekend. On the schedule, Houston still has Buffalo. Now, the game's in Houston, but they've got Buffalo. They've got Indy twice. They have to play at Kansas City, and they have to play at the LA Chargers. And they can't really afford to lose more than 2 of those games because I don't think you get in at 9-8. I think you've got to win 10 games to get into the playoffs in the AFC. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe 9 gets you in. But, the Jaguars without Stroud, Buffalo, twice against Indy, Kansas City, and the Chargers, those last 2 games on the road, that's 6 games right there that are going to be incredibly difficult for Houston to win. And they have to go, I think, at least, 4-2 over those 6 games to have a chance at the playoffs. So I don't like their chances. Interesting stuff happening in Arizona. Head coach Jonathan Gannon. So Jacoby Brissett is playing really good football. Arizona just beat Dallas on Monday night. Jonathan Gannon, the head coach of Arizona, he comes out after the game and says, Kyler Murray is still our number one quarterback. Jacoby Brissett is still the backup. Everybody calm down. Shortly after that, Jonathan Gannon came out and said that Jacoby Brissett was the starter. Things changed quickly in Arizona, apparently. So it was Kyler Murray's our guy. It's no big deal. So like within 48 hours, Jacoby Brissett's going to start for us. And now Kyler Murray is placed on IR. And this is interesting because Kyler Murray suffered his injury, his foot injury, in week 5. So almost a month ago, he sustained this injury. So why is Arizona, 3 weeks after the injury, placing Kyler Murray on IR? Something's fishy, right? Like if the injury was bad enough that he was going to be out for a month and a half, 2 months, he would have been put on IR immediately. So why wait 3 weeks to then put him on IR? It makes you wonder if Arizona feels like Jacoby Brissett is the better quarterback right now. They don't want a controversy. So how do you stay away from a controversy? You put Kyler Murray on the IR. You sit him out for 4 weeks at least and say, hey, look, he's on the IR. He's trying to heal up right now. That's what it feels like to me. And it also feels like the Kyler Murray-Arizona Cardinals relationship is over. If they can get rid of Kyler Murray, I think they're going to get rid of Kyler Murray. Don't forget, that current regime, the front office, the head coach, they did not bring in Kyler Murray. They inherited Kyler Murray from the prior regime. They didn't give Kyler Murray his second contract. The prior regime gave Kyler Murray the contract extension. So there are no ties. The coaching staff, the front office, they have no ties with Kyler Murray. And if they can get rid of him, I think they're going to get rid of him. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think if they have the opportunity to trade him, he's going to be gone. Now, I don't know what kind of value he has because he still has 2 years left on his contract before he hits the possible out in that deal. And he's got $96 million of a cap hit. So good luck to you. What are you drinking this Thursday night? I am having a Black Hat Brew Works Moonlight's Wink, a Czech dark lager, 5.5 ABV. Nice pint glass here. Appreciate all of you. Let me know what you're drinking tonight. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Story number 3. So I voiced my concerns about Jayden Daniels. I think it was last week. And I have been concerned about Jayden Daniels since going back to draft time last year. And, you know, he's not the biggest guy. He runs the football a lot. And so I always had concern about him being able to survive through, 2, 3, 4 years of NFL football with bigger players, a more physical, faster game. And here we are again. So Sunday night, Jayden Daniels gets hurt. Dislocates his elbow. The injury looked worse than that. We'll see when he gets back. But the bigger story here is Dan Quinn. What in the blue hell was Dan Quinn doing? This was malpractice from the head coach. It was garbage time. Washington had no chance on God's green earth to win that football game on Sunday night. Their defense was getting torched. They had no chance of winning that game. And for some reason, Dan Quinn kept Jayden Daniels in the game. And Jayden Daniels, let's not forget, just got hurt. He already was hurt. He just got back. He just got back onto the field. You should have put bubble wrap around Jayden Daniels, put him on the sideline and said, you're not going to play the rest of this game because we're getting our tookuses handed to us. So we're going to move on here, Jayden. We're going to do something different. We're going to put, was it Marcus Mariota? We're going to put Marcus Mariota in the game. But Dan Quinn leaves Jayden Daniels in during garbage time, and Jayden Daniels gets hurt. That's malpractice by the head coach. And Dan Quinn came out and apologized a day later. I couldn't care less. I don't care. I don't care if you sent edible arrangements to every single Washington fan on this planet. If you're Dan Quinn, it doesn't matter. Too little, too late. Your apology after doing what you did doesn't mean anything. I mean, just an absolutely irresponsible, brutal decision. The fact that nobody on the side, did anybody tell Dan Quinn, hey, you might not want to continue to play Jayden? Did Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, go up to the head coach and say, hey, how about we don't play Jayden Daniels anymore in this game? How about that, Dan? I think that's a good idea. Did anybody broach the topic with Dan Quinn? I mean, this is just brutal for them and brutal for Daniels. I mean, how do you trust Dan Quinn moving forward with your young franchise quarterback after what happened on Sunday night? How can you possibly trust him? And the Commanders, they're in a tough spot, man. And I was down on the Commanders before this season kicked off. They're the oldest team in the NFL. If you look at the draft picks they have coming up in April, they only have 1, 2, 3, 4. They only have 5 picks, actually 6 picks. They've got a first-round pick. They have no second-round pick. They got a third-round pick. They have no fourth-round pick. They have 2 sixths and a seventh. So no second, no fourth. And, some of that stems from, the trades they've made, Laramie Tunsil, Deebo Samuel, Marshawn Lattimore. And you're looking at only 5 picks in the draft, only 2 of those in the first 2 days. Your receivers right now, you've got Deebo Samuel, who's on his last leg, Terry McLaurin, who's now in his 30s, who hasn't been healthy all year long because you didn't sign him to the extension that you should have given him before camp, and he would have had a full camp and been able to ramp up. And so now his quad is all screwed up. So you've got Deebo Samuel, who seems cashed. You've got Terry McLaurin, who's banged up in his 30s. By the way, how long does the offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury hang around? You think he's going to stay? Look at all the big college football jobs. You don't think Cliff Kingsbury would be interested in one of these big college football jobs if one of those programs came calling? So Washington is in a really tough spot. And they have fallen off a cliff. They got a bunch of injuries because they're the oldest team in football. And now they got to figure out what they are. Michael Skinner jumps in. Been a while since I've caught you live. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you. Having a Canada Dry ginger ale with dinner tonight with my wife. Appreciate you as always. I appreciate you, Michael. And hello to the wife from me. All right. Story number 2. Deadline. Let's talk about the trade deadline. A lot of interesting stuff happened at this deadline. So Indianapolis, they actually took their first-round picks in 26 and 27, plus one of my favorite players from the 2024 draft, A.D. Mitchell, who has not worked out because some of the personal stuff, and he fumbled near the goal line, and he's been banished or was banished in Indy after fumbling at the goal line. He's one of those guys that dropped the ball at the goal line. So A.D. Mitchell and 2 first-round picks to the Jets for Sauce Gardner. That is a huge price to pay. A.D. Mitchell could end up being a number 1 receiver, but he's likely going to be a number 2. Obviously, with the Jets, he's going to be a number 2, given who else is on that team. But this was a huge price to pay for Indy. And, what's interesting is Sauce Gardner did not have a good season last year. Some people speculated it was because it was a contract extension that he was looking for, so he was making quote-unquote business decisions. But this year, Pro Football Focus has Sauce Gardner ranked as the 22nd best corner in football. So it's not like Sauce Gardner has been an elite corner this year. His track record speaks for itself. He's been an all-pro a couple times, but last year wasn't a good year. And this year, ranked 22nd, according to Pro Football Focus. Now, Indianapolis needed a corner, so they go out and they get the best corner they could get. But the most interesting angle about all of this, do you know what the most interesting angle to me is about this Colts trade? It limits the Colts' ability to find a young quarterback. I mean, when you trade your first-round pick in 26 and your first-round pick in 27, along with a young receiver that you just drafted in the second round last year, when you make that trade, you have given up 2 premium assets. The 2 picks are the 2 premium assets, and another good asset in A.D. Mitchell. And when you make that trade, what you're doing, for all intents and purposes, is you're riding with Daniel Jones. And I know Daniel Jones has been really good for most of this year. Last week, not so good against Pittsburgh. But the decision to trade those 2 first-round picks, you don't have really any way to get a young quarterback unless you hit in the second round, which, as we know, is very difficult to do. So at least for the next couple of years, and Daniel Jones has a 1-year contract, this trade by Indy, it's putting all the chips in the middle of the table and living with Daniel Jones. And you're saying he's our guy. He's their guy for at least the next couple of years. So interesting decision by Indy, because if Daniel Jones ends up turning into a pumpkin, they just gave up 2 first-round picks, and you might not get another quarterback in there worth the damn until like 2028. So very, very interesting gamble, I think, from Indianapolis. And Chris Ballard, the GM's been there forever. Ever. So maybe this is just a little bit of desperation, but they are married to Daniel Jones right now, which, no matter how good he's played so far, would kind of scare me. Then you had Dallas. So Dallas ends up sending a second-rounder this upcoming draft in the better of the 2027 first-round picks that they have. So they have their own pick, and they had Green Bay's pick. Whichever pick is the better pick is going to the New York Jets. And then they also traded 2023's first-round pick, Mozzie Smith. Now, Quinnen Williams goes back to Dallas in this trade. Quinnen Williams is going to be 28 years old in December. That's interesting. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to combine the Micah Parsons, Quinnen Williams trades and tell you what Jerry Jones did. I want to know how you feel about this. So Jerry Jones in Dallas, they traded Micah Parsons, Mozzie Smith, who again was their first-round pick in 2023, a first-round pick in 2027, and a second-round pick in 2026. So Micah Parsons, Mozzie Smith, a first and second-round pick. They got back Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, and a 2026 first-round pick. I don't know how I feel about that. Micah Parsons, a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and Mozzie Smith to bring in Kenny Clark, who I think is 30, Quinnen Williams, who is 28, and a 2026 first-round pick. I don't know if I love that. It feels like Jerry Jones is all in, which would make sense. He's in his 80s. It feels like, Jerry looks at this and says, we've got a 2-year window, so we're just going to go for it. To me, it might have been just easier to, keep Micah Parsons, but Micah Parsons, to be fair to Jerry Jones, he has been up and down with Green Bay. I don't think he had a single pressure last weekend, which is amazing. Against Carolina, I don't think he had a single pressure. I think it was the first time in his career he hadn't had a pressure. Of course, the week before that, he had like a billion pressures. So, again, he's been a little bit up and down. But you could look at it and say, hey, they have a first-round pick. They got an extra first-round pick in this upcoming draft. But I don't know, man. Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams is a really good football player. But again, he's going to be 28. And Clark's 30. So I don't know if I love that. Another interesting part is the Jets part of this. Because now the Jets, look at this is Operation Quarterback. We talk about Indianapolis being married to Daniel Jones. The Jets know they need a quarterback. They have swung and missed at the quarterback position over and over and over again. Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, we know the names. Justin Fields is just the most recent one. And these trades, this is Operation Quarterback for the Jets. They know they absolutely have to acquire a quarterback. They have to draft a quarterback, trade for a quarterback. However they can get a legitimate quarterback for that franchise, they've got to do. So this trade of Sauce Gardner, the trade of Quinnen Williams, this to me is the Jets saying, we need to do everything that we possibly can do to get a quarterback in town. Because now they've got, when you look at 2026, they've got their own first-round pick. They've got Indy's first-round pick. And then they also have their own second-round pick, and they have Dallas's second-round pick. And then in 2027, they have their own first-round pick, the Colts' first-round pick, in the better of the Cowboys / Packers pick. So, I mean, they have the next 2 drafts. They have 5 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. I don't know if they've got 2027 second, but I mean, 5 first-round picks. That to me screams the Jets, if they're not going to look, you tank the rest of the year. If you end up with a top 3 pick, then you can play around with that Colts pick and find something else that you need. And then you go into 2027. If you could solve your quarterback problem in the 2026 draft, then you go into 2027, you've got 3 first-round picks. And so you've got 2 young wide receivers now. You got Garrett Wilson and A.D. Mitchell. You've got a young offensive line. You've got Fashanu, Membu, and Tittman, the heart of that offensive line, all younger guys moving forward. So the Jets are trying to build this young offense, and they know they are desperate for a quarterback. So now you've got a bunch of picks. So whether you tank and you end up drafting your quarterback, or you need to use some of those picks to move up to get your quarterback, that's what they've got to do. Now, of course, you have to hit. The Jets have to hit on these picks, because when you trade Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, you got to hit on those picks. If you miss on those picks, then it is an all-out disaster. I also don't know why they didn't deal Breece Hall or Quincy Williams, Quinnen's brother. If you're trading Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, you might as well trade Breece Hall, who wanted out. You might as well trade Quincy Williams, who now they're benching. Even if you can get a 4th-round pick or a 5th-round pick for Breece Hall, the rumor is Kansas City offered a 4th-round pick for Breece Hall. Trade him to Kansas City and get a 4th-round pick. And then, Quincy Williams, maybe you get a 5th or a 6th for him. So it didn't really make sense that they held on to those 2 guys. Meanwhile, Philadelphia sent a 3rd-round pick to Miami for Jalen Phillips. Good deal for Philly. Philly had extra picks in the 3rd round, so they take a strength and they bring in a pass rusher, which they needed. And another interesting part of the deadline was Buffalo did nothing, nada, which is really tough. Really tough. Because Buffalo, I mean, it feels like Buffalo's window is starting to somewhat close. And I think they're desperate for a receiver. They do not have enough at that position. And I think they're very desperate at safety. So Buffalo not doing anything was tough. All right, what are you drinking tonight? Don't forget to let me know. I've got the Black Hat Brew Works Moonlight's Wink Czech Dark Lager, 5.5 from Black Hat Brew Works. Fantastic place in Massachusetts. Appreciate every single one of you. Cheers. We do this thing every Thursday night until Turkey Day. Then we take Turkey Day off, of course, gobble, gobble. And then we're right back to finish it out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I think I saw something, a big-time super chat from my guy Greg. And my guy Greg coming in. Look at this. A $99.99 super chat. Thank you, Greg. Can't listen right now. Just dropping in to say hi to the OG family. Go Patriots. Not even listening to the show live. Going to catch the show later. But parachutes in with a $100 super chat. My freaking goodness, making my night, making my week, certainly going to make my weekend. Can't say enough about the generosity, Greg. Thank you so much for doing that, my man. And hope that you have a fantastic weekend. But thank you so much. All right, let's wrap it up with story number 1. Going back a few weeks ago, I talked about the AFC and how much parity there was within the conference. Well, I've got news for you. There's parity in the NFL, not just the AFC, but also the NFC. Who's the favorite right now? Who do you consider the favorite? If you had to put money down right now on one team in the NFL, who would you put that money on? I think it's an interesting question. Would you bet on Indy? Do you believe in Daniel Jones? Do you believe in that Indianapolis defense? I mean, they just lost to Pittsburgh. I don't think Pittsburgh's great. Would you bet on Indy? Would you bet on Buffalo? Just mentioned, they don't have a lot at receiver. Their defense hasn't been very good. Their safeties are in trouble. So would you bet on Buffalo? Would you bet on Kansas City? They started to play good football, lost last weekend to Buffalo at Buffalo. Again, they can't beat Buffalo in the regular season. But would you bet on 5-4 Kansas City right now? Would you bet on the Detroit Lions? Tough game last weekend. Is there any leader for the trophy? Is there any team in the NFL right now that you feel so confident in that you would be willing to put a decent amount of money on? I think this thing is wide open. There have been weird games all year. Just look at last week. Last week, J.J. McCarthy, who hadn't played in weeks, goes into Detroit and the Vikings beat the Lions. Then you had Indianapolis, one of the Cinderella stories of 2025 to go along with the Patriots. And you've got, Indy going to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. And the Steelers haven't been very good. And yet, Steelers take care of business, easily beat Indianapolis. You've got Arizona going to Dallas with Jacoby Brissett beating the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. And maybe the biggest shocker, Carolina goes into Green Bay and beats the Packers. I had the Packers. I see you, Maryland. I had the Packers in the Super Bowl too. But the Packers have now lost at Cleveland, and then they lost against Carolina in Green Bay. Baltimore, they're 3-5. I still think they can make a run, but would you bet on Baltimore? I mean, this could be a fascinating postseason, a fascinating season, but a fascinating postseason. I don't know if any team in the league feels inevitable. Maybe you feel good about Philly, but they've had their stretches of funky and clunky offensive line going through some injuries. I mean, this season has been one heck of a ride already, and we're just over the halfway point. Nobody feels inevitable. All right, everybody. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming into the bar on a Thursday night yet again. We're back next week, 7:00 sharp. Should be fun. It'll be a Patriots game on Thursday night. So Crafts and Kickoff is going to be kind of a Patriots pregame as we get ready for the Patriots and the Jets. But everybody enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the football. Patriots fans, of course, Locked On goes live on Sunday for the preview of the Bucs Patriots game. That preview will be out tomorrow morning. Appreciate all you. Be well. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.